Peace. This is A and B, African man born on the Culture Speaks, a true hip hop podcast for those who live it. Let's get into it.
I am hip-hop culture, predator the vultures. Rappers getting high, spitting lines, I be sober. Never need an entourage, partner who holds us down when I come around. Massachusetts soul child, say me in your masu. Knowledge will surpass you. Silly rap crews, walking shady as they move. I am the God man, I be living in the proof. I be teaching all the youth on the elements they use. Turn the television off, all the government is plotting on our sons, and we disrespect our daughters as we living in the slums, and we stay.
Peace. This is A and B, African man born on the Culture Speaks, a true hip hop podcast for those who live it.
Make decisions like a grown man and plan my future up for the unity to take it over. Gather everyone. This is who I am as I'm representing hip hop. I will take a stand while I'm representing hip hop. Gotta be my best as I'm representing hip hop. God in the flesh as I'm representing hip hop. This is who I am as I'm representing hip hop. I will take a stand while I'm representing hip hop. Gotta be my best as I'm representing hip hop. God in the flesh as I'm representing hip hop.
Peace. This is A and B, African man born on the Culture Speaks, a true hip hop podcast for those who live it. All right, so this next segment of the Culture Speaks, when we talk about culture vultures, who are the true culture vultures? Okay, we talked about the record labels. We talked about the history of being a culture vulture, which is pretty much stems all the way back to how the U.S. government was formed, to the voyagers like Christopher Columbus and Ponce de Leon and Balboa. These are all people that are culture vultures. I don't give a fuck how you fucking present it. The U.S. military, all of these people are culture vultures. Take from people to fit their development, and even we do it till today. We support culture vultures today. It's called jobs. All right, city jobs, private jobs, all of that shit. We're working for culture vultures. Any of us that have a job, we work for culture vultures. You gotta accept the fact. Even when you run a business, you're supporting the culture vultures. You know that? Because you have to get permission from your local government to have a permit, all right, to run your business, whether it's a license or permit. Who's giving you the license? Who's issuing you the permit? Culture vultures are issuing these things. You see what I'm saying? To get a permission from schools are ran by culture vultures. Schools are a form of culture vulture. All right? So let's not get it twisted. Anybody who doesn't care about the culture of how things are started and historical reference and don't care to preserve it, they're only there for the money, they're a culture vulture, whether they're black or white. And I can prove this by way of just hip-hop alone. All right? Hip-hop, which widely argument is started in 1973 by DJ Kool Herc. It was also said that it wasn't started by Kool Herc, by others that are older than me. I can't argue those points because I wasn't there. I'm going by what I know. All right? And if what I know is wrong, please send me the information so I can present that as part of the show. Also, the term hip-hop came from, of course, the Zulu Nation in the meeting that they had November 12th, 1974. This is also argued about, even in the Hip Hop Beyonders, the brotherhood that I'm a part of. We argue about that shit. Not necessarily me, but Big Brother Sadi argues that shit. Even though Big Brother Sadi, I have my opinions on how he thinks it, but he's my brother. You know what I'm saying? And that's not to knock him, but he thinks his way he thinks, and that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? Also, when you look at hip hop and how it's been developed as a gathering of people to have something to do outside of the gang violence and poverty that was going on in the early 70s, that extended from the 1960s. Blacks and Puerto Ricans coming together in the 60s, and then it got disbanded once the buildings started being burned in the early 70s, and then somebody decided to create these parties in the parks. Even though they was doing them in Manhattan and doing them other places, people were too young to go in those parties, so then they had to do them in the parks, and that's where Kool Herc comes in. All right. It's been widely said that these parties were going on all over New York, even in Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Bronx. Bronx is attributed to it. You know what I mean? And one of the main reasons why it's attributed to it is because of the Zulu Nation was in the Bronx, all right, and where they had that meeting in 1974. All right, so let's fast forward on to the 80s. 79, 80s, where you have record labels that started to take hip hop as a musical art seriously. The reason why hip hop was taken seriously was because they seen the attraction that it can bring, and the attraction that it brought brings what? For record labels, it brings what? Money. And if it brings money, then it's useful. Most of these European ran companies only look for black culture for its use. Now, some people say, oh, well, that's racist to say. So be it. If it's racist to say, then it was racist to do, and that's what we're dealing with. I don't care if you call me a racist for things that I say on this show, or even on my lives, or even on my social media platforms. Because what I say is what I say. I stand on it. You don't have to agree with it. You know what I'm saying? Do your research if you're going to challenge me, though. You know what I'm saying? Know what you're talking about when you challenge me, because the thing is, these are things that happen. Record labels, most of the major record labels, who are they run by? Anybody black running a major record label these days? You let me know. Is there any black person running? Yeah, you could be a president of it. You could run the A&R department. You could run the promotional department, the marketing, you know what I mean? But who is your top black executive? L.A. Reid, Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z. Who else? In this day and time, right? Who's running a record label, a major record label? Major record labels are probably the three that we know about: Interscope, Columbia, you know what I mean? Those guys are signing the record labels that the black guys own. All right? Def Jam was started by Rick Rubin, a Jewish man who met Russell Simmons and started his record label in his college dorm in New York. Right? Who ran Priority Records? White people. Who ran Arista? White man. Who ran Sony? White people. And now that the record label game has changed into the digital tech labels, who's running them now? They're not black folks. They're Arabs, Jews. And by all means, nothing I'm saying is intended to be anti-Semitic, and I'm not even worried about you calling me that. I don't care if you call me anti-Semitic for facts. If it's a fact, then it is what it is. If you think I'm anti-Semitic because of that, I can hit you with some facts to prove to you that I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't call you by the names that would make me anti-Semitic. I don't push for the murder of people that would make me anti-Semitic. But at the same time, a lot of y'all push for anti-black people, anti-black culture, anti-African culture, separation of people by way of names and stupid shit that y'all push on media, social media, and on your TV shows. Most of your TV shows are anti-black. Social media doesn't even want you to be proud of being black. Anytime you put something up in defense of your blackness or proud of your blackness, they put a community standard. You are not following community standards. The community standards are centered around racism, right? And black division, or African division, or Nubian division. Divisive shit that pushes our people apart from each other. They love that shit. But as soon as I say something in defense of black folks, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Please. And I ain't worried about you taking my life for it. I ain't worried about that. We all gotta die sometime. And I'm not even playing. I'm not just talking. I live this culture, which is why most of these people are afraid of my voice. They love the fact that I go through the things that I go through that kind of put me in a space where I don't do anything for a while. You know what I'm saying? Because they love that. They hate the fact that I talk about culture vultures because I expose everybody about it. And what you do is you mess with the algorithms. I put it out there so people are aware of it. So when they try to do what I do, just understand that this is what you're going to go through. So when you're talking about record labels, tech companies, Empire Records, right? To me, I don't trust anything about it. The biggest culture vultures are the record labels. The people becoming millionaires off of artists' music. They go here living a lavish life, driving Tesla spaceships on the street, and fucking they're super rich. They don't have to work because all they're doing is collecting money off of the artists that feel like they have to change their whole image, their whole persona, their whole culture for these people to market you like a fucking mascot. The rich, the super rich, they're the culture vultures. And they use other people that work for them to be culture vultures so they can live off of being a culture vulture. Which is why you have ASCAP, BMI, which is why you have all of these different distributions, right? It's why you have all of the Nielsen and you got to register this and register that. You're doing all of this stuff to get very little money because you don't own the major platforms. And as far as black folks is concerned, we don't even think to like separate ourselves from that to create major platforms. There's always some coon black that goes in and says, well, what about the white man? And then destroy everything. I've heard stories. I've read stories. I can't prove none of that because I wasn't there because I'm independent as hell. I'm independent to a point where people don't even care that I even exist. And I'm still in their face. You know what I mean? There's so many different black artists and black executives that could be creating better payouts for black artists. They could be creating better situations for black artists, but we still want to go to people outside of our race that don't care about us. If you're outside of our race as black folks and you build opportunities, actual opportunities, then I give you respect. But I'm not going to trust the whole race of y'all because of it. That's just a few of y'all that actually can be trusted. You know what I mean? We name certain artists when we talk about culture vultures. We always talk about people like Drake and Eminem. But to me, Eminem ain't really a culture vulture. Does that mean that he's perfect? No. Do I think that his music is beneficial to us? Not absolutely. I think it's beneficial to him. Drake, I think he's a culture vulture. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at other artists that are out here talking that nigga shit, that continue to perpetuate what black life is, instead of actually trying to improve what black life is, those are culture vultures. You see what I'm saying? When we continue to be 40 years old and still perpetuate negativity in our music, and then we say, well, I'm getting paid. When you got black women that are pushing more ratchet material to stay paid, that is a culture vulture. Can Megan Thee Stallion be looked at as a culture vulture? Possibly, because does she know anything about hip-hop culture, or does she just know how to rap good and undress just to show her body? Beautiful woman, but what is she projecting image-wise for the culture? You see what I'm saying? Nicki Minaj, she can rap her ass off, but what is she projecting? Cardi B, what is she projecting? The new girl, Glorilla, what is she projecting? Who is she around? One thing that KRS once said when they was talking about Nicki, when Nicki was the largest artist out, he was saying, Nicki know what she doing. And I agree with that. Megan know what she doing. Glorilla know what she doing. You know what I'm saying? Why you think people like Jaguar Wright coming out and saying all the shit that she's saying? Because it builds attraction, because people love gossip and bullshit. Look at the last 30 years of hits and see how the downhill of hip-hop went because of culture vulturism, because of the garbage hits that the record labels approve to be pushed out. But the moment that you want to talk about COVID-19 and the real truth about it, they shut you down. They shut down a TikTok video that I did. I didn't really do it for TikTok. I did it for YouTube, and it's up on YouTube. It's a Random Thoughts episode. The moment you start talking like that, where it goes against the grain, this is why they push the hip hop concert so people can be vaccinated. When have you ever seen that? You see what I'm saying? Culture vultures will not allow you to put the truth out in the industry. So it takes the underground artists to do it. But what they do with the underground artists is that they created platforms for underground artists to be locked down, right? Which is why we pretty much have to dispense. We have to take ourselves off of most to all of these platforms. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of black artists that are culture vultures, only in it for the money. And they don't care. Which is why the Drake and Kendrick beef was so important in the sense of, doesn't mean that Kendrick was the illest lyricist, but Kendrick was the right lyricist to fight against people like Drake. Because Drake is moved by the machine, Kendrick is not. So we can sit here and be like, well, Kendrick didn't drop no fire, da 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 da. Well, he did. Because it was better fire than what Drake dropped, and Drake had some dope lines. He had some decent lines in that battle. Drake is not a simpleton. He knows what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? Do I think he's the top tier lyricist of the game? No, he's not. You know what I mean? So when you go back into earlier days, Elvis Presley stole everybody's shit. Drake is doing the same shit. He steals shit, steals sound, and then creates it like it's his own. But, you know, we can't really get too mad at that because hip-hop is a recreative culture. We didn't create anything. We recreate everything. And we make it our own. So we can't get too mad at what Drake does, but at the same time, at least be creative with it. But the industry don't care about that. The industry cares about standardizing music so people can bring them money. And all of that shit is dying because they stole so much. So they're looking for the new thing. What's the new thing now? Afrobeat. And Afrobeat ain't even fucking new. For those of people that listen to music, I do. I listen to all types of music. I was into Fela Kuti before I even put out a rap record. I was into Sun Ra before that, and I was into artists that like Miriam Makeba and Harry Belafonte. Rest in peace to both of them. You know what I'm saying? I was listening to them before I started rapping. Because true hip hop artists know music. We listen to Diana Ross. We listened to Patti LaBelle when she was on the LaBelles. We listened to Mahalia Jackson if we was in the gospel music. We was listening to the gospel trio. You see what I'm saying? This is before all of these records that you hear now. You know what I mean? So, when it comes to being a culture vulture, when it comes to just culture vultures, period, they steal. And when they steal, they make so much money off of their theft, and then they give you less, and then you have to sue them for everything, and it takes a whole long legal process. But it's like, we need to come together and build businesses for ourselves. You know, so I'm gonna take a break, and we're gonna come to the conclusion segment of this when it comes to culture vultures and how to defend against it and how to really acknowledge it. But the first thing, I'll get into that on the next segment. So let's take a break, and we'll come right back to the Culture Speaks, a true hip hop podcast for those who live it. Peace.